to the Magg Mastro podcast.
Hey!
Oh!
Welcome to the Magg Mastro podcast.
My name is Magg.
And I'm Mastro.
Mastro, it's the day we've all been waiting for, May 20th, 2021. A day that I'm sure will live on in infamy as we started off right with another episode of the Magg Mastro podcast. Just let me know how you're doing. The debut, the start of the series we've been waiting for how many years? I don't even remember how many years it's been. 79.
It's
so you can do the math.
40 years.
The series we've been waiting for the age of a middle-aged dad.
Yes.
Habs, Leafs, in the flesh. Mind you, no fans.
No fans.
Coming up tonight. I know you're excited. I'm excited. I got my Habs hat on.
Oh, yeah.
I have le CH tatoué sur le cœur. I'm just wondering how you're doing over there in Leafland.
Leafland is looking very bright. They say the grass is greener on the other side, but my grass is blue.
I like that. So before we jump right into it, we have no time to waste. Just tell people where they can find us online.
Super easy. Very, very simple to find on social media. You can hit up Twitter at Magg Mastro Pod, or you can hit up Instagram at Magg Mastro Podcast, both of which will be posting a lot more since this series is going to get really heated.
I actually already posted a quick chirp over the weekend. I've heard cricket's back. Are you a bit nervous?
I blame my new phone. I just got a new phone.
You did get a new phone, so you have an excuse.
I have to sign into everything.
Just like Toronto will have excuses ready to go once this series is over, Mastro is ready to go with his excuses. So let's jump right into it. It's the NHL playoff. I mean, the playoffs have started, so can we really call it a preview edition? But like the NHL, we're a bit late at starting stuff. Like the games always start late.
Keeping with the trend.
The regular season only ended last night.
That's right.
So let's stay on brand here and let's jump right into it.
It's time for this week's Big Brashole.
Okay, Mastro, here we go. This episode is a full Big Brashole, a holiday edition, if you will. You know, the holiday Big Brasholes, they're bigger, they're better, they're jam-packed with all the good stuff. So that's what we're doing here, hockey fans. If you came here for anything other than hockey, I apologize. You'll have to wait till the end. But stick with us because you might learn something along the way. Let's jump right into it, Mastro. We've told people since the start we're two Italian guys yelling at each other. And one of the reasons that gets us yelling, since we've known each other, is our rivalry on the ice. Habs, Leafs, the first time since 1979.
Yep.
The two storied franchises go at it in a playoff series. You know how I feel. I know how you feel. Let's get right into it right here, right now. I have the Habs pulling off the upset, and Mastro was actually very generous in saying Leafs in 6. So why don't you give us your reasoning why the Buds will finally pass the first round in 2021?
You know what, Magg? It's been a while since I've actually felt comfortable watching the Leafs in the playoffs. So the main reason why I think they're going to make it this year is, first of all, I hate to say it, but Jack Campbell's starting game 1. Believe it or not. And I've said it before, I have more faith in Jack Campbell for some reason than I do in Freddie Anderson, especially considering the guy hasn't played in a couple months. So that's reason number 1.
You've been a Jack Campbell stan
absolutely
for a
while. Since he got here. Yes, absolutely. Since last season when he started backing up.
This is not out of the blue. You've been clamoring for this to happen for a while.
Out of the blue, I like that. No, I've been saying this for a while. I really support Jack Campbell. Not to say that Freddie's not the number 1 guy, but I don't know. Something about the playoffs, something about his consistency just throws me off. He's a great goalie, don't get me wrong. It's just, I think the whole steady Freddie thing is not like, just because his name is Freddie doesn't mean he's steady. You know what I mean? But no, I think Campbell's the way to go. I gave Toronto 6 games to do it though, because I'm basing this off the season. These have been very tight games. There has not been a game between the Habs and Leafs where you were going into the third period knowing who was going to win. So that's why I think that Montreal's definitely going to steal a couple. For sure. Like I would put money on Montreal stealing a couple. That's definite. I just think over the course of an entire series, I'm sure you saw what Ducharme's doing in putting down the kids for now. He probably wants that veteran presence. I'm sure you're going to say a couple things about that, which I don't know if that's the best move based on, the direction the NHL is going. But then again, we know how much more lenient officiating is in the playoffs. So it might be like that trick move that plays out in the end. I just think if you look at overall kind of like goaltending, defense, and firepower, I think Toronto has the outright overall edge, but the playoffs is a different beast. We all know that anything can happen. I don't know. You seem very bold in stating that Montreal's coming out of this with the win. You seem pretty confident. What do you back that up with?
I was going to say I was expecting a lot more vitriol from your end. I was expecting a lot of braggadociousness, and I like.
Not yet.
I'm actually a bit concerned about your reserved nature, because if you go on social media, Leafs fans have been annihilating Habs fans
I can't
all
do
week
that.
long, with Carey Price going to the AHL, Dom Ducharme causing riots in the streets of Montreal by sitting all the young guys. The gut feeling I have is that this team has a history now of coming out of the gate strong. They did it last year in the bubble. They did it this season. They're going to be rested. They're going to have everyone back healthy. Their full lineup will be on the ice for game one. Whether or not you agree with the lineup is a whole other story.
Yeah.
My thing is just, I know the Leafs have been phenomenal in the regular season. I know Austin Matthews won the Rocket Richard Trophy. I know that the on paper, the roster is deeper, stronger, better, faster. The numbers, the outlying numbers and the analytics all point in Toronto's direction. But we don't know what Jack Campbell's going to do in the playoffs. If I'm not mistaken, this is going to be his first playoff game. And I feel like the psyche of the Leafs, it reminds me of Vancouver back in the day when they couldn't get over the hump of Chicago. Chicago was always in their way. It's obviously a bit different because the Leafs, I guess Boston would be that team if they couldn't get through.
For the Leafs, yeah.
But for the Leafs, maybe it's more just the first round in general, that mental hurdle that they have yet to climb to then say, okay, because if the Leafs get through this series, I can see them going to the final without any issues. Because they'll finally get over that hump, the confidence, you're going to assume that they're going to have good goaltending, that Matthews and Marner are going to be clicking, that guys will, the guys they brought in to be those secondary leaders and role players will step up. But I got to see the pieces click together first. And on the other side, Dom Ducharme is pushing all his chips in the middle with experience and guys that have been there, done that, on top of the fact that, Carey Price has not been Carey Price for much of the last few years, except for come playoff time.
Right.
They get in the head of the Leafs. If he gets in the head of the Leafs, combined with all the other stuff going on, I don't know. I just got a feeling these guys, they come out of the gates firing. I don't see them going all the way to the end. They can go on maybe a bit of a run here. That's what I'm predicting in my bracket. But there's just something in my gut that's telling me I would hold the brakes if I was a Toronto fan about playing the parade just yet.
Look, I've always been one who reserves my gloating for once the score sheet has been handed in, and you know that about me. I'm not going to brag before the fat lady sings, right? But until I know I'm penciled into the second round, I'm not going to start throwing boasts around. I'm not going to start pumping my tires. However, I can't say that I'm not confident. I mean, look, at the beginning of the season, if you took that lineup, I'd maybe stretch it a bit and be like, I'm a little worried. But if you want to look at veteran presence, the addition of Thornton may seem, useless, but that experience in the playoffs is very valuable. I know through the season he's slowed down. Definitely not the same guy as he used to be, but I think that experience is huge. Adding Foligno at the end of the season, massive. Very massive. That guy was so instrumental in Columbus dismantling teams in the playoffs, especially Tampa a couple of years ago. So I think, Montreal's putting the vets in, but I think Toronto's doing the same to complement the young firepower that they have. I just think the cohesion might just overpower Montreal's sort of tenacity, because Montreal is a very tenacious team. I'll give them that. Their forecheck is relentless. They're always on the puck. Their PK is one of the most aggressive in the league. So don't get me wrong, their tenacity is there. But over the course of potentially 7 games, I don't know if you can keep that up.
Yeah, well, that's okay. So here's the thing. I'm not saying the experience is going to win out, because don't get me wrong, I'm taking Austin Matthews over any experienced player in a heartbeat.
Fair.
My point is more the guys on the Canadians don't have the mental block that is facing Toronto right now. Whether you think they're going to be able to get over it, whether you think they're not thinking about it, it's there. 4 years in a row, and if you include last year, in the bubble.
Yeah.
So 3 first rounds and the play-in tournament that they haven't been able to get over the hump, especially in situations where they should have won, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There's no denying that. And we always talk about, you got to learn how to lose before you can win, all this and that. Fine. I'm not so sure I buy that part of it, because by that logic, they would have already gotten over this hump and they would already be in a position where they've been battle tested to the point where now it's, like Tampa lost early to the Habs in the first year of Vasilevsky and Kucherov and those guys. And then they went a bit farther, and then they made the final and they lost there, and they came back and they lost to Columbus. And they went through all different stages of it, and they finally won. But Toronto just keeps hitting that wall, and I don't know what it is. They should, this team is too good to even have that doubt in your mind, but it's still there. And the other thing for me too, for the Habs, I was mentioning about how they come out of the gate strong. Dom Ducharme came in, the Habs then got hit by COVID. The schedule was condensed. I'm not using that as an excuse for their performance, but he hasn't had time to implement anything. He had this little mini playoff camp, if you will, to kind of implement some things. And I think you'll see a more organized Canadiens team come out. And if they can play well, the games we've won, the games the Habs have won against Toronto have been low scoring.
Yeah.
So if they can figure out how to play in the defensive end, Carey Price plays like Carey Price can at an elite level, I give Montreal a good chance in this series. I said Montreal in 7.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be nights where Matthews and Marner just go off and they can't be stopped, and I'm fully prepared for that. But some people are saying the physicality of the series, this and that. Like Austin Matthews is a big boy. Zach Bogosian's coming back in for Toronto. It's gonna be a violent series. I can see it now.
It's gonna be heavy.
My concern would maybe be more for guys like Nick Suzuki, Mitch Marner, Nylander to an extent. I mean, these guys can all handle themselves. But again, I mean, until Toronto does it, I'm not putting money on them. That's basically my point here. I don't have much to lean on. I don't have much to lean on because the Habs are the heavy underdog in this series. But in my lifetime, that's what it's been, man. All these times that Montreal has gone on runs, no one was expecting it. This team has defied logic all season long.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to do it again in the first round.
Do you think we see, because you mentioned the physicality, do you think we see a lot of fights this series?
I mean, we see what's happening with Florida, Tampa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even Colorado, St. Louis got chipped. Every series has been chippy so far. And
we have and both teams have the guys for it now, right?
You're right. And there's no, Corey Perry's going to start something for sure.
Perry's going to start some.
Wayne Simmons is going to be.
Perry and Simmons might be an item. Anderson and Muzzin.
There's already stuff brewing from the season. It'll be fun, man. I don't know how you feel. You say you're confident.
I'm confident.
Which good for you. I wouldn't be if I was a Toronto fan, just because of everything I've seen over the past few years. I'd be nervous. And I think you're in the minority of Leafs fans. I could be wrong, but I think a lot of Leafs fans are, and I'm not saying you are, because you come with sound reasoning and you've watched this team all year and you know what the product is. But we'll call them more casual fans and more braggadocious fans. I feel there's a bit of overcompensation that, we're going to destroy the Habs. Leafs. I'm seeing Leafs in 3 all over Instagram comments. I'm seeing Carey Price this, Shea Weber that. Man, don't discount these guys. I mean, this, and again, it's a rivalry series. It's not like it's two random teams that have never played against each other. Like Nashville, Carolina, we'll get to that later. They have this rivalry that was built in this year because they played in the same division. Yeah. Other than that, there was nothing there. And, playoff hockey, like even you've played meaningful playoff hockey games. Yeah. Even in our beer league, once the playoffs hit, it's a different ball game. So
that's right.
Any final thoughts on this before we move on to the rest of the series here?
Madge, final point here is just, I don't know. I think you should be a lot more worried than you sound, man. The Leafs have had their entire season to get their stuff together. Their top 6 is basically cemented. We're actually doing something with Galchenyuk. We're doing something with Galchenyuk that you couldn't. He's actually putting points up for once. So I don't know. Oh my God, here we go.
The Maple Leafs saved Galchenyuk.
It shows, I don't know, maybe it's a coaching thing, maybe it's a system thing, maybe it's a management thing.
Well, Michel Terrier definitely had some things with Galchenyuk, but we won't get into that.
Half the season that we have to get ready, so it's a matter of preparation in the end, if you ask me.
Well, they had no time to practice. What did you want them to do? Practice in the parking lot?
That's a shame, isn't it? That in the end, doesn't matter, does it?
So it's going to hurt even more when you guys lose, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to wait a while before that happens, maybe a couple of years, but I'm sure it'll hurt.
A couple of years.
In the future, yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, it's gonna feel so good in a couple of weeks from now. I'm gonna go swimming in your tears. It's gonna be phenomenal. It's nice outside in Montreal.
Yeah,
the fans will be there Game 6. Hopefully we can eliminate you in Game 6 even better.
Yeah, even better.
It'll be a riot.
Why do you think I picked
downtown.
Toronto in 6? I picked Toronto in 6. So all you guys can watch your team lose at home.
We've had so many riots for COVID restrictions and this and that. Finally, we'll have a riot for the Canadians, and nature will begin to heal once and for all.
The only riot is going to be everybody rioting in the streets after they lose and burning down shops. It's going to be Vancouver all over again. Oh.
Hey, that's my line.
Match. That was a bit aggressive.
Yeah, you're right. It was pretty aggressive.
I think we should remind our listeners that we certainly don't condone any violent actions such as rioting and defacing of public and private property.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mastro. People have been through enough this year. The Magg Mastro podcast is an anti-violence podcast, and we want to make it clear that we do not support violence under any circumstance.
That's absolutely right, Magg. Violence is not the answer.
Oh, this is going to be fun, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned for more of this banter as we move forward here. Game 1 tonight, we're buzzing. I've been waiting all week. I've been watching all kinds of hockey already. I know you have too, so we'll get into some of the other series, but this is the one, obviously, that's going to make or break how our summer goes here. So we're going to start going rapid fire through the rest of the series.
Of course,
we're going to stay in the North. Stay in the North Division for now. Edmonton, Winnipeg. You actually have Winnipeg taking this one in 5.
I got the Peg in 5.
So I'm going to go quick because I don't have much to say about this, and I don't think I have much to justify in my decision. Edmonton in 6. I think Connor Hellebuyck's a great goalie. He'll probably take a few games, but this game is starting. We're recording Wednesday. This game is starting in an hour.
Yep.
Tonight's game will not have Nikolai Ehlers or Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Doesn't matter.
So, I mean, Dubois, whatever, but Ehlers is a big piece.
Ehlers is the big piece,
I think the defense of the Jets have not been able to stop the offense of the Oilers. McDavid looks like a man on a mission. And, you know, I say all those things about the Habs, but we really all want to see McDavid, Matthews in a playoff series. And McDavid knows that he has to get there before we can have that narrative come up. These guys know, right? So I think McDavid just goes off again, Draisaitl, all those guys. For Edmonton, I think Mike Smith will do just enough in the Edmonton net, but I don't see Winnipeg having a chance. Their defense is not good enough. But you think otherwise?
I do think otherwise. I said the Peg in 5 because it's the same story. Draisaitl, McDavid, they carry the team throughout the whole. It's those two guys, the whole season. And come playoffs, all the other team has to do is shut those two guys down, and Edmonton just collapses.
Who shut them down, Mastro? No one shut. The only team that shut them down for a few games was the Habs.
The playoffs, and Winnipeg did it's the playoffs. It's a whole different system. The whole story behind the playoffs is shutting them down. They literally pack all of their training into shutting down two guys, and that whole team crumbles.
I know. I don't know. This guy is just, it's hard to, like, the same way it was hard for me to go against Austin Matthews for the season he had. It's hard for me to go and say Connor McDavid's not going to follow up on what he just did with another phenomenal performance against the Peg.
Edmonton did something in the playoffs.
Well, they had that run a few years ago. Well, by that logic, what would have the Leafs done in the past couple years?
Well, they've made the playoffs.
Look, I can see it happening. Okay, I'm not saying anything's possible. I'm just saying it's very difficult to go against the two guys. McDavid could have taken away all his goals and still would have been second in scoring this year. Like, this guy's just, I get the playoffs are a different beast. And the year they did go on a run, he was good. He was very good. He's shown that he can do it in the playoffs too. You're right. We'll see if the secondary scoring can keep up.
There's nobody else.
What's your X factor for Winnipeg? Like, what's going to happen for Winnipeg? These guys are already undermanned.
The X factor is that Hellebuyck is still an amazing goalie, and if he can at least shut down Edmonton's offense and keep them to about 2-3 goals a game. Maybe there's 1 or 2 games where, I mean, I gave them 5, so maybe there's a game he lets in more. I just think if Winnipeg is smart and the way their system is applied, if you look at throughout the season, if they can implement this sort of shutdown hockey and just you literally have to shut down 2 guys. 2 guys. Mm-hmm. It's not hard. And they have the manpower to do it, all right? A guy like Lowry can easily park himself in Draisaitl's pants all game, and he can be very ineffective for most of the game. That's just an example. You got Andrew Kopp who can do the same thing. Like, they have the guys who are able to shut players down. They have probably one of the most physical, one of the most productive fourth lines, if you ask me. So I don't know. Again, come playoff time, you have the strategy. Shut down their two guys, and the rest of the team kind of just, there's no backup, there's no reinforcements for Edmonton. You know what I mean? They bank on those two guys way too much. And Nugent Hopkins had a really good season based on what he's been putting out earlier. Again, come playoffs, can he keep it up? There's for me, there's more question marks for Edmonton than there is Winnipeg. And if they manage to get Ehlers back in the series, maybe not. It's just even more strength towards Winnipeg. And I don't know. Okay. I don't see it. I don't see it for Edmonton, unfortunately.
I disagree, but we view these things differently, and that's that's the beauty of all this. So you got. We'll come back to the North Division later, but you got Toronto, Winnipeg in round 2. I got Montreal, Edmonton in round 2. So
total opposites.
We don't agree on anything, which is fantastic. Let's move it along. So everything else has started, Mastro. So we already posted our brackets, so everyone knows what we picked. We didn't change anything.
No cheating.
Everything is out there, so there's no surprises.
Yep.
We haven't posted our finals picks yet. We waited for the podcast to drop, and we'll drop those during the weekend or during the week. The end of the week here.
Yep.
So let's move over to the East Division. The series have already begun. Like I said, Pittsburgh Islanders. Let's start with that one. Tied up at 1.
Yep.
Pittsburgh got the W the other night, 3-1. Varlamov did not look good to start game 2.
Not for 2.
So you picked Pittsburgh to take that series, and I also took Pittsburgh. So we won't spend too much time on this. For me, Sidney Crosby is still one of the top 3 players in the league. Hard to go against him. Evgeny Malkin will come back at some point.
That's right.
And the Islanders without Anders Lee, I don't see them being able to pull this off. What are your thoughts on the series?
For me, I chose Pittsburgh in 6 because I think Malkin is the X factor when he does come back at some point. I'd say hovering around game 3 or 4. I think that just takes Pittsburgh over the edge because we know Malkin in the playoffs and he's an absolute force. It's as if he comes out of hibernation in the playoffs for some reason. Gino has been consistently outdoing Crosby, specifically in the playoffs. The guy scores all kinds in the playoffs. So if he manages to come back a little earlier than later, I think that just blows New York out of the water. And before we even chose, like you said, Varlamov looked a bit shaky in game 2. I don't know if he can keep it up. And he has had that tendency in the past in the playoffs. So, there's just too much piling up against New York, despite the fact that they're a very good team. They're a soundly structured team. Again, they don't have as much playoff experience. The loss of Anders Lee is huge, and you even mentioned that earlier in the podcast, quite a few episodes ago.
They've been a decent playoff team. They made the conference finals last year. I think it's just more Pittsburgh is just sneaky deep. Like I think there's a lot of guys that people don't know about that people underestimate. Like Rust is a good player, McCann is a good player. They added Jeff Carter. If you haven't been paying attention, Pittsburgh, for all the crap they took during the offseason with some of the moves they made and bringing in Mike Matheson, and then they went to go get Brian Burke and Ron Hextall. They seem to be trending in the right direction. They look good so far. And the first
Matheson was a very good move.
Yeah, and the first game went to overtime, so they could easily be up 2-0. Let's move it along here, Mastro, since we both have Pittsburgh. I think we both have the same selection in the next series as well. Boston, Washington, a very fiery series so far.
Oh yeah,
you had Boston in 5. I have Boston in 7. I think it's going to be closer. What do you think is okay? So this series is already 1-1, by the way.
Yeah,
I believe they're playing.
They're playing as we speak. Do you want to know the score currently?
If you have the score, you can go ahead and say it and give us
halfway through the second.
Okay, so you can go ahead and give us your reasoning.
It's fairly even here. For me, Boston, and I've said this before, has this essence, this aura of just finding a way to win in important games. And I don't know what it is about them. Is it the big line? Is it Tuukka Rask? I can't figure it out. I can't figure out what it is about Boston where a big game comes along and I don't know, it's almost as if they have the puck GPS to a control stick. I can't figure it out. But Boston finds a way to win big games. And there's not much else to back up to that. It's just what it is for me. Boston 5, I think Washington probably going to have some goaltending issues as we kind of saw a little early in the series. But I think the goaltending just doesn't pan out for Washington despite the firepower up front.
You've seen enough of Boston in your day, haven't you?
Exactly. I just know. You know what? No, it doesn't hurt for me to pick Boston because maybe I'll jinx them.
You know the script. There you go. Yeah, for me, very simple, similar to what you just said. Even before the series started, I was not confident in the men between the pipes for Washington. And then Vitek Vanacek got hurt. Craig Anderson's a great story. He's been a great playoff performer when he was, 10 years younger. Now at nearly 40 years old,
not the same.
I don't see him. It would be an amazing story, but I just don't see it. Boston, has a lot to prove. They added Taylor Hall. I don't think he's the guy that necessarily is the one he can put him over the edge a bit there, but the pieces were already in place. So I agree. Boston just has that playoff mettle. They know how to get it done in the biggest games, like you said. And I'm banking on Tuukka Rask over Craig Anderson in 2021. So
absolutely.
So we did the North, we've done the East. So we both have Pittsburgh, Boston. So we did agree on some stuff. Let's move it along to the West.
Ooh, the Honda West division.
I think we're on the same page to start here. We'll go quickly.
Yeah.
Colorado already up 1-0 over St. Louis in their series. A masterclass from Colorado. If you watch that game, the only reason it wasn't worse was because Jordan Binnington stood on his head.
Insane.
Honestly, one of the best goaltending performances I've seen in a long time. But Colorado just has too much firepower. So that's why I took Colorado in 6. I give St. Louis. I figured Binnington would have a couple of good games. So Colorado in 6 for me. I would be surprised if they sweep them, honestly. Mastro, what do you have? Colorado in 5.
Colorado in 5. Really, I can't make a list short enough right now. It's ridiculous. You stack them up the forwards. Just McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog. What are you supposed to do against that? If it wasn't for Binnington and not to down the guy, but he can't play like that every game. What are you supposed to do against that line?
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do?
He did everything he could that night, and it just wasn't happening.
And they still lost. What are you supposed to do against those 3 guys?
And St. Louis also didn't have David Perron, and we'll see if he gets back in with the COVID test. And now St. Louis is saying there's been discrepancies in the tests and stuff, so we'll see what happens there.
Even if you put your best line against them, that's a waste of your best line. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't do anything. You don't even need the rest of the team after those 3 guys. And
just
then you look at defense, and Taylor McCarr is coming out of his shell. So forget it.
Just like McDavid and Draisaitl, by the way. But anyways,
not at all. This is 3 guys. This is a whole line.
Well, Nugent Hopkins.
Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're
not going back to the North here. We're staying in the West. Colorado. The other series, Vegas, Minnesota. That has been an interesting series so far. Minnesota has held their own. They lost last night. It's 1-1. The series heads back to Minneapolis tomorrow, or tonight rather. Yeah. If you're listening on Thursday morning, any thoughts on this one? I took Vegas. I know I like Minnesota. They got some good young pieces, but I just think Marc-Andre Fleury, again, playoff experience. If I'm going to have guys that are experienced, give them to me in nets and give them to me, make them my best players. And that's exactly what it is for Vegas. Alex Petrangelo's a cup champion.
You talk about
most of these guys went to the final a few years ago. So I don't know. Vegas just has too much firepower, I think, and they'll be able to
talk about experience there. And you've got Fleury, who's the first NHL goalie to play 15 playoff seasons in a row. So they're alone. That guy's set. The guy has zero jitters. But on top of that, Pietrangelo, huge addition. He's going to be a huge help on the back end. Additionally, for me, it's not necessarily what Vegas has as opposed to what Minnesota doesn't. And what they don't have is any kind of pedigree in the playoffs, unfortunately. Give them a couple years, let those young guys develop a little bit, get more comfortable, get more sound. They're going to be a little bit more closer to their prime. I think Minnesota can do some damage in 2-3 years. Right now, I just think Vegas has them outnumbered in terms of guys who just can play important games.
Straight fact. A lot of good hockey players who Mark Stone is a hockey player. He's an offensive force, but he can do everything on the ice.
That's right.
Pietrangelo, great hockey player. And we haven't really talked about the rough stuff so far. I think that's overblown a bit. I think we've seen a lot of scrums and stuff, but if you're going to have a guy on your team like Ryan Reeves, I know people have different feelings about Ryan Reeves, but I'm not messing with that guy.
Who's going to answer Ryan Reeves?
Will Carrier too. Yeah. Those guys are
some big boys.
Yeah. And they can play. So
they can play the game. Yeah.
Vegas, Colorado in the West. Let's go very quickly in the Central, although it's a very interesting division. I don't think we have to say much.
Central.
Oh, actually, you took
there's
Nashville.
There's much to say. This is my game breaking.
Yeah, this is actually an interesting division because both of our cup winners come out of this division.
Exactly.
Not looking great for you so far, looking good for me so far. But you think I'm going to be Wrong. So you have Nashville in 7. I have
Nashville in 7.
Carolina in 6.
Yes.
What's your reasoning for Nashville pulling this off?
I think Carolina is the Tampa of 2 years ago, if that makes sense. I just feel like everything is going up Carolina right now, and it just sets them up to crash and burn very quickly. Now, granted, they did take the lead in the series. Don't get me wrong. It's not looking good so far for me, but I did put Nashville in 7. There isn't really a straight factor. I just think that when it comes to Carolina, I feel like they're a seasoned team and not a playoff team, just based on the way they're structured. Playoffs, you need absolute game breakers. And you can tell me, Sveshnikov, you can throw guys' names out, but I don't see an absolute game breaker on the Carolina roster. I don't see it. And, throw me under a bus. I feel like goaltending might be an issue. I think goaltending might be an issue in Carolina. So
sure.
It's a feeling. This one is pure feeling. No one, you place a bet and you're like,
well, the same way that I have Montreal. The same way I have Montreal and I'm feeling you have Nashville. Fair enough. I'm going to disagree with everything you said, though.
Of course.
I think Sebastian Aho is a great player. Jordan Staal already showed what he can do in the playoffs. He's a strong leader on that team, and he's already made an impact in the series. I think Nashville got hot on the back of UC Saros and is now going to come back to earth a little bit. I can see Nashville putting a scare in Carolina maybe at some points, but they're deep, man. They got players everywhere. Their defense is one of the best in the league, in my opinion. Rob Brind'Amour should be considered for the Jack Adams this year, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Like to come out of that division,
to come
out of that division looking so good. We'll see what happens with Tampa here, but I don't know. I don't see Nashville being an issue for Carolina. I'm going to spoil it. Carolina is my cup pick. I actually have mentioned Carolina a few times in the podcast.
At the beginning of the season when we kind of
I've been on Carolina. I have a future bet on Carolina from before the season. On Carolina 19-1 to win the cup, and I'm very confident in that ticket, and I'm going to stick with it. But for now, we're just talking about the first round. I got Carolina. You got Nashville. Quickly, it's 2-0 Tampa. Not looking great for Florida. But the Battle of Florida has been phenomenal. It's been the best series to watch by far, which is weird to say about two hockey teams in the state of Florida. But it's good. I mean, Gary Bettman finally validated for the Sun Belt, adoration of all these years of trying to make sure hockey worked in the southern United States. We'll see if it leads to anything, tangible down the road here. But the atmosphere in Florida has been phenomenal. I'll give them that. But Tampa just looking too strong. Mastro, I'm going to let you say what you have to say, but if I could wring your neck, I had Tampa in this pick. I said Tampa in 7 or 6 or 7. Florida will stick around, but no Aaron Ekblad. And then I saw your bracket, and I was like, I got to change it now because if Mastro, I respect a lot of the things you say, and sometimes you have these gut feelings that just end up being right about a lot of things, and you could still be right. But right now I have Florida coming out of the division. Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at yours here. I have Florida winning this round, and now I'm regretting changing my pick because I listened to you. So
you got to be your own man sometimes, man.
Well, I have been for the rest of the picks, but then I saw what you did with Florida, and I was like, does this guy know something? I know. I'm just kidding. I'm not actually blaming you. It's my own fault. I tell everyone else with fantasy football, go with your gut.
Hold on. I don't think it's such a long shot. Florida's not a bad team. I mean, don't get me wrong. Tampa is stacked, but I don't know.
But the odds are stacked against us here. Like it's 2-0 going back to Tampa. Fair, that's not a good thing for. But we've seen crazier things happen. So why did you have Florida going? Well, how far do you have Florida going, and why do you have them going so far?
I have Florida, honestly, to winning the cup.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw
winning the cup. I don't know.
I was very surprised.
On the back of Barkov, I have Florida winning the cup. I think
if Ekblad was there, that wouldn't be so far-fetched. And it's not far-fetched. It's just...
Don't need it. Don't need it.
It's hard.
Dude,
you need your best defenseman. I'm sorry.
It would be nice, but I don't think they need it. Barkov, I still think, despite how much notoriety he's been gaining, is still extremely, extremely underrated.
No, he's one of the best players in the league by far.
On the back of his talent, on the fact that nothing seems to phase this guy. Like if you look over the course of the years, most players have these kind of rises and fall. This guy is one of the most consistent I've seen in a very long time. The guy just consistently puts up points, be it season or playoffs. So that consistency for me holds a lot of value when the playoffs come around.
he's another guy who's just a solid hockey player. Both all 200 feet of the ice can get it done. Yeah. So any final points on Florida before we move it along here?
Barkov all the way. I know goaltending is wow.
Well, they have 3 good goalies. The question is finding the one.
It's more the performance of the goalie, like depending on it's as if like, oh, he's better on a Tuesday, but like only like the 3rd Tuesday of May. Like it's weird in Florida. I don't know if it's the heat, but
so Mastro, we've gone through every series.
Yep.
Here's what I want you to do, okay? I'm gonna go through it first. And you follow my lead. How we're going to do this because we're running out of racetrack here and we want to get to the final 4.
Okay.
So I'm going to go rapid fire on my 4 semifinals. Okay. Montreal, Edmonton. Edmonton was the only good team Montreal was able to keep up with, and they were consistently shutting down McDavid until the end of the season. Montreal comes out of the North. I know I'm crazy. You can call me crazy in a minute. Pittsburgh, Boston. Boston looks good, but again, Crosby and that team is just sneaky deep, and Mike Sullivan just seems to get the best out of these guys. Come playoff time, Pittsburgh comes out of the East. West Division, Colorado, Vegas, going to be a barn burner of a series. These President Trophy teams, they rarely ever win if they even get through the first few rounds. Colorado's good. Vegas just feels deeper in a sense. You talked about the big 3, but like you said, if you can shut down those guys, and again, Marc-Andre Fleury, Philip Grubauer. Grubauer's a great goalie. I got to go Fleury in that one. And the defensive end can stack up for Vegas, so Vegas goes through. And Carolina's my cup pick, so that's the only reason on that end. I had Florida advancing. Even if they play Tampa, I still think Carolina gets through. So Montreal, Pittsburgh, Vegas, Carolina, that's my final 4. Now it's your turn to go rapid fire. Let's get to those final 4 picks.
Yeah, super quick. So I had Toronto, Winnipeg coming out of the Scotia North, and I'm sticking to my roots. I'm going with Toronto on this one. They've had Winnipeg's number all season long, and for this one, I don't even think it matters who Toronto puts in nets because the strength is far too great. Moving over to the Mass Mutual East Division, I also, like you did, had Pittsburgh and Boston. I'm going to give Pittsburgh the nod on this one. Boston, as I said, may always have found a way to win, but Pittsburgh's additions right before the playoffs started for me were very smart moves, and I think that carries them past Boston. Then we flip over to Honda West Division. Colorado, Vegas. I can't stop pushing Colorado here. I feel like they're going to absolutely overpower Vegas, like absolutely just come in and burn their house down. I think McKinnon very just graphic. Goes off the entire time. Very graphic. Yeah, absolutely. McKinnon's just going to come in and destroy Vegas. Like he could do it on his own, if you ask me, to be fair. So I got Colorado coming out of the West. And finally, out of the Discover Central Division, I have Florida, Nashville, the 2 sort of picks that are kind of really off the board for me. I have Florida taking on Nashville. I think Nashville will be so gassed from playing Carolina that if Florida does make it through, they may just steamroll them, to be honest. And I don't think Nashville, because Nashville plays in a very aggressive style, I don't think they'll have the juice to keep it up considering the games are coming very quickly. So there you have it. I got Florida out of the Central. So, we'll see what happens. Those are our semi-finalists, so to speak. And that's going to be interesting when they all start mixing into divisions, playing teams they've never played before.
This is where it gets very exciting. We had a few series that it's teams they've never played before. Carolina, Nashville wouldn't happen in a normal year.
Yeah.
Actually, most of these wouldn't. Well, they could happen, but they wouldn't happen in the first round, basically. Anyways, we won't get into all that. Yeah, so you got exactly. Toronto, Colorado, Pittsburgh, Florida.
Yes.
So you can go first this time. I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor again. So you have an amazing matchup on paper. Colorado, Toronto on one side, Florida, Pittsburgh on the other. Very quickly, your winners, and then go ahead and tell us why you have Florida winning the cup. And then
super quick. Toronto, Colorado is going to be a total shootout. Absolute shootout. Picture like
if we get, sorry, I just want to say very quick, if we get Toronto, Edmonton, and then Toronto, Colorado, I'm happy with that. Like I'd be fine with the Habs getting knocked out if that's what ends up happening. If
that's what you get to see. Fair. Okay, that's fair. But no, I guess if you get to see like a Matthews McDavid and then either like a Matthews McKinnon or a McDavid McKinnon, that would be pretty awesome. But no, I got Toronto, Colorado. I got, as much as I hate to say it, I got to give Colorado the edge on this one. This one's just a matter of overall team chemistry, the way the teams are built. I think Nazem Kadri comes back to haunt the Leafs, so to speak. I just see Colorado being just far more efficient in each aspect of the game. So offensively, maybe they're the most even with the Leafs in terms of firepower, but then you look at the defense and, Colorado has the defense. They have the defense to back up that offense. And I think that's where Toronto falters, and that's something we have to work on moving forward. But that's where the issue comes in right there. Goaltending, I'd say, is pretty even as well. I've been on Grubauer since the beginning. Also, he was actually my Vezina pick a while ago. Oops. But no, I mean, look, the guy's been good for Colorado, and he hasn't needed to be amazing because the guys in front of him have been doing their job extremely well. So, got Colorado coming out of that one. Pittsburgh, Florida, as we know, I got Florida winning that one. This one was probably the one that I was the most skeptical about when I was picking, because if you look at the build of the two teams, I've been basing my decisions off team build, and I think Pittsburgh is definitely a better built team than Florida across the board from front to back. But this one, I just, again, it's that gut that's telling me that Florida has it. I feel like they're just going to have the momentum moving forward. They would have beat Tampa. They would have flushed Nashville quickly if my, if my projections were to come to fruition. I just see them kind of using that momentum to push back a perhaps slightly older Pittsburgh team who may start to get gassed after a very long, not long season, but like sort of it must have felt long considering there were games so quickly back to back. So I think maybe fatigue might be an issue for Pittsburgh in that round. And then I got Florida, Colorado, and this is probably the biggest question mark. I just played Florida purely out of the sense of I don't know. It's that inner gut again. Something about Florida is calling me, and I don't know. I honestly don't know how they would get past Colorado, but I feel like if there's a way, they'll find it. And this one is the one I will just say there is no reasoning, but it's the playoffs, and it's a different beast. That's all I got.
Beautifully said. I think you're gonna be wrong on many counts, like I've said several times. Your Florida pick is very ballsy, though. We didn't do bold bro. We're not doing bold bro in this episode, but that's the biggest bold bro.
Might as well have.
That's the biggest bold bro moment, I think, of the show, of the history of the Magg Mastro podcast so far. I had Montreal, which is another bold bro pick. Montreal, Vegas. Yeah. Vegas just overpowers them and too good. Max Pacioretty revenge tour if he ever gets back on the ice. Ooh. And of course, the French goalie aspect. Like if we end up playing Fleury, if that does happen, we end up playing Marc-Andre Fleury. Yeah. I'm betting my house on Vegas because there's no way the Habs are beating a French goalie.
Yeah.
On the other side, Carolina, Pittsburgh. Similar to the reasons you said, perhaps a bit of fatigue plays a part for Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's really like the main reason there. Like I said, I've just been on Carolina all year. They're deep. And we didn't talk about it too much so far. But they have three guys who could start. Maybe not so much James Reimer anymore. But I'm going to try and pronounce his name. Nedge. What you call him? Nedge? The Nedgester?
Nedge.
Alex.
Let's go with Nedge.
Alex Nedgelovic. Nedgelovic. They were pronouncing it on the broadcast the other night. I just can't pronounce it properly. I apologize.
Living on the Nedge. He got it.
Exactly. He looked good so far. And if they need to rely on Peter Mrazek for a couple of games, he can get the job done too, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Carolina, Vegas, like I said, I've just been on Carolina from the start. Yep. There's just something there they have. And no, we didn't talk about either. Not everyone has fans in the building. Well, everyone in the States is going to have fans in the building. Will. But the Carolina fan base showed out in that first game against Nashville.
They did.
And, we saw it the year they went to the conference finals and lost to Boston. Mm-hmm. That fan base really rallies behind their team, and I think it'll give them a boost in a year where... Like, it was so weird watching the first Pittsburgh game. It almost felt like they should have just kept using the piped in crowd noise because the crowd was just not into it. But Carolina's fan base was unreal in that first game. And the bunch of jerks continue to support their team all the way to their second Stanley Cup championship in franchise history. So I have Carolina, you have Florida. They both came out of the Central. We're probably going to be completely wrong on all of these. We did it, Mastro. We went through our entire bracket.
We got it.
We did it in a record time.
Pretty efficiently, if you ask me, yeah.
It's just, you know what, Mastro? It's going to sound a bit sappy to say this, but the fact that the same way I felt when we got to the Super Bowl in the NFL, the fact that we've gotten to this point in the NHL, considering everything that happened to the schedule, considering the fact that COVID was running rampant through the United States and through Canada for a good chunk of the season, and the fact that not only are we back here, but we're going to have fans in all these buildings and we can watch playoff hockey, like, Give me the first dose. Give me the second dose. Give me all the doses right in my intramuscular spot over here, whatever it's called.
Sure. The arm.
Give me all the doses of playoff hockey you can give me, because I'll take them all.
That's right.
I'm just excited that we got here, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of months.
But to your point, let's get hit with all those doses of NHL playoff hockey coming up, and hopefully, realistically, one of us is going to be unfortunate, but when we can actually go out and do things again here in our hometown, Montreal, and one of us will already be eliminated, but we can still go watch some playoff hockey, perhaps in person, in front of a TV, maybe on a terrace or something, if we're lucky, by beginning of June. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers for that.
Terrace season. All right, my friend, a healthy serving of hockey talk for the fans out there. Thank you for getting this far.
Yep.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun talking just hockey with you, Mastro. I know we like to diversify the topics on a weekly basis. I think we've done a good job of that. But this is, like we did for the mock draft, this is priority number one right now, playoff hockey.
Absolutely.
For us up in Canada, us up in Canada, excuse me. And especially with our teams facing off against each other. So there'll be more chirps flying here before the end of the episode, I'm sure. But we would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that there's also the NBA playoffs starting.
That is correct.
Playing games are underway. As we speak, the Pacers dismantled the Hornets last night. The Celtics, led by Jason Tatum's 50 points, his 50 burger over Russ Westbrook and the Wizards. So those two teams are in. And tonight, a couple more playing games. Last night rather. So we won't have the scores of those. Obviously, you'll know when you're listening, but as we speak, we don't know what's happening tonight. But regardless of the play-in tournament, which we've spoken about in the past, let's jump right into it. Mastro, what do you see happening in these NBA playoffs? What's your finals pick? And who do you see taking the Larry OB at the end of the day?
There's a lot of interesting matchups here. Even in the play-in, that game that's kind of, people already know what happened, but that Lakers Golden State game should be pretty interesting, even though it's a play-in, that's going to be a huge mark.
The NBA won big with that one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm pretty sure their ratings are going to be pretty high for that one. If we look at the big picture, I want to start with the East real quick, because I think this is more matchup based, but I think Brooklyn comes out of the East simply because, they're going to face a Boston team that just had to go through the play-in, but the Boston team that I don't think can handle the big three from Brooklyn. And I think that's just going to carry them through. I don't see a team necessarily, like obviously Philly's first, but I don't really see a team in here. You look at that 3, 4, 5 Milwaukee. They roll in the back of Giannis. You got the Knicks. I don't think they're ready yet. And then you got Atlanta, Miami. We're sort of dribbling down here. I just think Brooklyn. We said a lot about firepower in the NHL playoffs. I think they're the NBA version of firepower, if you ask me. I think the Nets carry through the East. If you look at the West, this is where I get a little freaky with it. I'm going to come out straight up in front and say I think the Mavs come out of the West here. Call me nuts as much as you want, but I think they can I think they can dismantle the Clippers. I really think they can. Clippers have not impressed me this season based on the status of the players they have. Yes, I'm a little biased because Kawhi decided to dip, and I kind of have a grudge against him, and I hope to see him lose. Sorry, no offense, bud. And then, the Mavs basically would just have to get through Utah, if you ask me, because the rest I think they can handle. I think Phoenix had a great season, but come playoff time, I don't really see them really making a great push for it, despite the fact that they're going to be playing one of those, they're going to be playing basically the Lakers or Golden State. So, yikes. I think Phoenix might be done there. I think Dallas just has to get through Utah, which on the back of that Doncic-Porzingis duo, I think they can do. Then you're setting yourself up for a Dallas-Brooklyn final, which I think would be really exciting. And as much as everybody's going to say Brooklyn's going to take it easy, I think the Mavs take the upset. So as I said from earlier on in the season where we kind of picked our dark horses, I still have Dallas winning the NBA championship.
Very nice breakdown. I like how you kind of you went off there. That was beautifully done.
Thank you.
I don't have much to say about the NBA finals. For me,
okay.
The NBA playoffs rather. For me, it's very simple. as we've seen since 2010, 2011. If LeBron James is in the playoffs, he's making the finals. And I know this year it's a play-in game, but until otherwise it's shown to me, until something else happens, until someone else knocks him off that throne, Mastro, 2010, 2011.
Yeah, I know.
Up until 2017, 18, because in 18, 19, the first year with the Lakers, they didn't make the playoffs. He was injured. Every other year since then, LeBron James has been in the NBA Finals. And his opponents have always been teams with a good amount of firepower. Like the Spurs were good. That when they played the Spurs early in his finals, into his foray into the finals, it was Kawhi, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili. Then it was the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is when they still had Russ, Harden, and KD. Yeah. Obviously, they ran into the juggernaut that became the Golden State Warriors, which had Curry, Thompson, Green, and then added Durant. So every single year, it's been the cream of the crop for 10 years, except for the year that Toronto won, which was, it was still Golden State, but Golden State was decimated with injuries. And Toronto still had Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, who turned into a star, Gasol, Ibaka. Like they were deep, they were deserving, but that's almost the anomaly of the past decade.
Right.
And again, this year, until it's proven to me otherwise, the same way I said about the Leafs having to get by the first round, I'm just going to keep reminding you of that. The same way I have to see someone take down LeBron, and on the other hand, see a team that's built more on like the way the Raptors were built. And even the Raptors, like they had to go get a star player to get it done,
Yeah.
So for me, it's chalk, man. It's Nets on one side, Durant signed in Brooklyn to bring that team to a championship. I think Durant is still top 3 player in the NBA.
Got to be KD.
When he's healthy. James Harden is arguably the best scorer of the past.
Arguably, I think is the best, period.
Yeah. You can make, you could say, Steph, LeBron, whatever, but he's up there, And Kyrie, if he's got his head screwed on straight, one of the best players in his own right, and kind of gets a bad rap for like having a life outside of basketball. But anyways, we won't get into that. So for me, it's talent on one side, and on the other side, LeBron and AD, like they might be banged up, and we'll see how healthy they are, and we'll see what happens. Last night, we don't know right now as we record. The game starts in an hour and a half. We'll be watching.
We'll find out later. Yeah.
But I don't see any scenario where they don't come out of the play-in with a playoff spot. Like even if they do lose to Golden State, they're not losing to Memphis or San Antonio.
Fair.
They're gonna get in the actual playoffs, and then once that happens, LeBron just flips a switch. And until someone beats him, I'm taking LeBron. So for me, it's Lakers, Nets, and then I could see the Nets winning, but I'm still gonna take the Lakers. I think LeBron is at a point here. His ankle, the ankle injury kind of put things in perspective for him in a sense of, okay, I'm a mortal person.
Yeah.
I'm getting older. It's harder for me to bounce back from these things. So I better go now. Like he's going to bring everything he has. AD has done it now. He's got the ring. The pressure's off his shoulders. They got to go get Andre Drummond. The Lakers are the only reason they're in this game is because of the injuries they had. If no one had gotten injured, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Now everyone's back healthy, and the playoffs is when these guys come to play, when they shine the brightest. So give me the Lakers back to back. LeBron is trying to shut people up, and people might hate on the guy. I've been a fan for a long time. I still think he's one of the top 5 players in the league, but for me, it's Lakers, Nets, and that's what everyone wants to see anyways, right? We want to see those guys go at it again. KD, sure. LeBron, like the star power, like no one wants to watch.
That would be a great final.
Utah finished first, good for them. Like no one wants to see that. We want to see people that love LeBron and love the Nets and love the star power. And, New York, LA, like, are you kidding me? Adam Silver's brain would explode if that happened. So for me, it's very simple. Nets, Lakers win. LeBron gets ring number 5.
Well deduced, if you ask me, actually.
And Mastro, you mentioned it before. It gave me a bit of bittersweet nostalgia because normally this time of year, we'd be out almost every night.
Yeah.
At different bars, telling the waitress, change it to this game, change it back to that game.
Yeah.
Or going to places like that had a million TVs so we could watch everything.
Every game. Yeah.
They might have hated us, but the people there that were there to watch sports loved us because we knew what we were doing with the remote. So I wish you a phenomenal playoff season. except for the first round of the Habs Leafs.
Yeah, which is sad
And
because it would have been the first time that I could go to a bar in Montreal and actually see the game that I want to see.
I can't imagine what it would have been like for me and you to walk into any establishment already at each other's throats and then go into a location where the majority of the people would probably be Habs fans.
You'd have my back though, right?
I would have your back and nothing would happen, but it would just be fun to just be in. Oh no, I know. You know,
I mean, stuff might happen.
I mean, stuff might happen, but I would still have your back. But anyways,
I know, but like,
we're not violent people unless we're on the ice. But anyways,
not us, but I mean the other people.
Well, yeah, yes. People get a few drinks.
How I like to dress.
People, yeah, exactly. People get a few drinks in them. They see Mastro with his disgusting Leafs jersey on.
Okay, calm down.
Things might escalate. But all that said, I hope we do get a chance to watch something together, whether it is this series. Maybe by Game 7, when Montreal's ready to wrap you guys up, we can watch that together.
Maybe Game 6.
Fans will be in the building for Game 6 when that happens.
That's right.
But for now, Mastro, we're going to have to limit our interactions to text messages and social media. So again, can you remind the people where they can find us? And then I'll let you have your last word before we wrap things up.
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, look, social media, again, we use Twitter for our episode drops, as well as little tidbits here and there. So yeah, follow us on Twitter at Magg Mastro Pod. If not, we're going to be getting pretty heated with Instagram. I think we're going to with this series coming up, Instagram, follow us at Magg Mastro Pod. We're definitely going to get some stuff going. Maybe dabble into some reels because this series is going to get pretty exciting.
Yeah, Mastro got a new phone just for this.
I got a new phone just for this. That's right. That is damn straight.
So your final word, my friend, before we wrap this up?
No, I think I have to extend the same courtesy to you. Happy playoffs. Again, I wish you the worst of luck in the first round, but God forbid if the hockey lords shall not shine upon me and you do manage to carry on somehow. I kind of hope you make it somewhat far because if I can't be happy, maybe you can, you know?
Wow. That's very mature of you. That's not at all what I was going to say.
I know.
I was going to say that's very, you went a completely different direction.
For sure.
Before I sign us off, I just want to say, fuck you, Mastro. Fuck the Leafs. Go Habs, go. Bleu, blanc, rouge. Canadien pour toujours. Until next week, ciao for now.